there, welcome to White Women Wake Up. I'm Jonelle.
And I'm Karen.
Each week, one of us brings a topic to the table, something we've been wrestling with, reading about, or noticing in our own lives.
And the other reacts in real time. No scripts, no prep, just an honest conversation between a mother and a daughter, spanning generations about what it means to wake up as white women in a world shaped by bias, power, and inherited patterns.
We don't always agree, and it's not always comfortable, but we show up anyways.
Let's wake up.
Let's wake up.
Hi, Jonelle.
Hi, Karen.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know what? It's so interesting about what we were talking about last week. Hang on. Announcements. Let's do announcements before.
Thank you.
Or else we will forget.
Oh, my
you know
goodness.
how that goes. Yeah.
Yes. Good call on that. How did we already almost forget? Okay.
Because we do.
We do. And I also have a secret announcement that I didn't run by you, but I'm just going to announce it anyways.
You won the lotto.
No, God, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, it would be really
great.
Like,
sorry, everyone.
No, this is the thing we would do in our life.
I know. We have a dream. Do we want to tell everyone about our dream just so they can manifest it for us?
Oh, yeah, manifest
We have a dream, everyone. If you want to just put this out there in your good vibes, we want to open up a public studio / art space / kind of bookstore in Chelan, in this adorable little town in Washington where we have a family house, and we just have this vision of it's just a great place to
people could come and join us on the podcast.
Yes, we have an open recording studio. There's books about education and learning, and then we can show
we do art workshops,
artists, local, female and BIPOC artists. And anyways, no, if I won the lotto, that's what we would do.
Yeah, that's what we would totally do.
Let's manifest.
And I could
together.
do little history lessons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everyone out there, that's our goal.
Becky could sit around and talk about her books.
I know, our new our Becky, our third.
Yes, we are so excited to have Becky as part of the band book club leader.
She has been amazing already.
She's amazing. And she is just smart, intelligent, and she can help lead us in literature development.
Yeah, so we had our May.
Mad Honey is this month.
Yes, Mad Honey is for June, but just come.
Yeah.
Even if you don't read the book, like Becky is just
she's
the way
insightful.
She elevates thoughts and conversation. I mean, this literally was her career in talking about this. This was her thesis, so she is spot on the person you need for these conversations, but it's just brought so much illumination and education to our already little world. So
thank you.
Love that.
But the announcement is we are doing a survey. And so the goal of this survey is we want to know how to reach you all. We feel we have gained so much, and we've gained it in the book club too, but we're afraid maybe the book club might be intimidating for people who haven't read the book.
Too much of an entry barrier. We get it.
But we feel that it's in this conversing with each other that we're really learning about the journey, a shame-free space, able to have conversations that will make us decent human beings.
So on that note, though, this is where Karen hasn't, but I had an interesting idea.
What?
We are open to speaking engagements, everyone.
Oh.
So if you have a group out there, if you are part of a Rotary Club, if you have a book club, if you have of any organization you belong with and you feel like you could bring, we have both done speaking in the past, and so
I speak all the time
with class. I speak all the time, and so we are kind of venturing on this. Starting to look into what does it look like on the road for us.
Yes.
So if you would love to have us speak at your event, please reach out. We can talk about what that looks like.
Book clubs, any of the above.
We would
love
above.
it. Yeah, good point, Jonelle.
Thank you.
Little things. You're a manifester today. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
So reflection. We were just it was the
Voters Act. We gave everyone a big to do, which was go out there, take action, and get our rights back.
I think it's one of the things that we've talked about a little bit. Is one of our ways of being an activist is vote with our values. And if we value people, we value human beings, we value like, we value each other. We're going to try to find out about the votes, and we're going to try to find out how it's affecting people, and we're going to try to vote in that space.
Well, and also, and Becky had such an interesting point that we talked about, doing a letter writing campaign. So this is also something we talked about. Maybe this is a community
activity. If people can write letters about banning books, we can write letters.
We can write letters to our legislation about voting rights and acts. And so it just... Think about this. Think your words matter, and if all of us come together, our words matter.
And tell your teenage daughters they matter. Oh my gosh, I am constantly telling my students, the 20-somethings, that their vote matters. Their vote matters because so many of them are feeling whatever they do and whatever choices they make don't matter.
But not just teenage daughters. Teenage boys.
Yeah, teenage boys,
too. We don't talk about this enough. Your generation raised independent women.
Yeah.
But we are no longer an emotional match with the men of our generation because we didn't spend time uplifting those men too. We need to raise political, valued, strong men who support
and respect women.
Women.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
Teach boys, girls.
Will actually really lead into to my topic today.
Ooh, okay.
So I was thinking,
what?
I don't want to be derogatory, but sometimes I'm just like a really kind of person, like I had no idea existed.
Well,
so
I think that's kind of the point of this podcast.
As we know, Mother's Day was a couple weeks ago, and Heather Cock Richardson. Have you followed her? Substack and her.
No, she familiar.
She's this amazing historian.
Okay.
She's amazing, and she really got a lot of notoriety. I want to think, over I want to say during the pandemic, but maybe it was a little bit. She was a high school history teacher, and she started posting tidbits about the Constitution and American values, and she is just blown up. I mean, blown up. So one of the things that she recently put on her Instagram was the original Mother's Day Proclamation.
Oh.
Did you follow that?
No, but I did hear a little bit about this. But
my gosh.
Okay, go on.
And so when I read it, I was like, I'm embarrassed. I mean, what did we do? What did Hallmark do to co-opt and make Mother's Day this sappy event?
Tell me about it, because I have to admit, I was scrolling on TikTok, I heard the title, and I thought, oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
I saved it and I scrolled away.
So I think it also, and this is the pro for understanding history. Because we've been doing the Reconstruction era, every time I hear 1860 or 1865, I kind of throw things in context. So in 1870, Julia Ward Howe wrote the original Mother's Day Proclamation. I'm not going to read it all. Look it up.
And who was Julia?
Julia, I don't know. She was a woman. That's a great question.
Sorry, I didn't mean to ask.
Well, that would be worth, when you write the Substack, you can look that up. Jonelle, I have to say, Jonelle gets so many compliments on her Substack. Anyways.
Well, because I feel like it's our
anything we don't cover.
Kind of oh, okay. Well, I'll just add that and
add that to the Substack. Yeah. So anyways, but one of the quotes that Heather Cock Richardson used was, from the original Mother's Day Proclamation was, "Arise, women. Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caress and applause." So, in the original Mother's Day Proclamation, the reason for it was a protest of violence. Julia Ward Howe and other mothers at the time, think about it, it's 1870, were upset with the Civil War carnage. Yeah. And as we learned, afterwards, there was another huge Black carnage. Around 250,000 Black people died after the Civil War in retaliation towards these proclamations. Anyways, we will not have, this is one of her quotes, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies.
Yes.
The other one, this is something she wrote in the proclamation. The goal was to protect your sons. She insisted that sons not be taken to unlearn all that we women, have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience.
Right.
The other one, she demand for peace, and her words were disarm, disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice. So when I read that, I'm like, what the heck has happened to us women that we have co-opted it as this sappy, sentimental, short and sweet, funny celebration.
But you're right. Isn't this always the system of interesting? Okay, so I can recap kind of what you're saying is Mother's Day started as a female empowerment day.
Yes.
Essentially,
as a way to acknowledge our values.
Well, and I think it's so interesting, and this is speculating here, but like I know a lot about the aftermath of World War II and like its place on women, simply because that's a big period in fashion when like women moved to wearing more pants and things like that. And so I have a lot of historical stuff there.
It's funny because that's also one of the things I'm going to bring up because
and that's what I was going to say is so if anything happened after the Civil War, I would assume what happened after World War II is so many of these women had to basically take on the roles and jobs of a lot of men in factories and stuff because their men were out fighting war. And so that when men came back, there was this weird disconnect of these empowered women, and then yet men were still treating them like these second-class citizens in their homes. So I would assume it was probably very similar right after the Civil War that these women are like, we've stood up. We've kept our homes going.
We've been feeding them and doing all this, and we didn't want to go to war.
Exactly. And now you come home and you're like not respecting the work that we've done. Is that kind of what?
Well, it's interesting because your take on World War II is right in line with kind of the media push. So World War II, like you said, we had Rosie the Riveter, we had all of this empowering women to get involved in jobs and so forth. Well, then when the men came back, the men needed the work. So right at that time became the 1950s housewife. Be subservient, love being at home, love decorating, love doing the things that are just the home system's value.
And so then shifting the Mother Days narrative to praising that homemaker.
Yeah, the homemaker value.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
So we're
always being manipulated by the patriarchy.
Yes. Well, this is it. So what it's like the language is, so the original Mother's Day was a political uprising. And then after that, there was this huge push towards the cult of domesticity. So so this idea that the 19th century, the true woman, the ideal woman was pure, pious, domestic, submissive. And it was designed for the white Protestant middle class.
I was just about to say, listen, because
and
at the
same time, the Black immigrant poor woman was excluded from true what they defined as womanhood. And in fact, they used the word matriarchal values in a negative way, as if matriarchal values brought on poverty.
Wow.
Because they positioned the language of matriarchy to go to the Black mother. And unfortunately, the media equated the Black mother with poverty. So, but it just kind of...
Talk about ninja mind games there.
Ninja mind game is so big because so we get the 1950s trying to do this cult. We get it with the suffragette movement. So that was the big one where the white women that were empowered, they then asked the Black woman to step aside, go behind us, walk behind us.
And this is, again, I had such a great conversation with someone this week about actually like our podcast and I was saying that I'd gotten some feedback that like, oh, that's such a Seattle thing. I think I told you about that. And, I took a little bit to heart kind of in the intent of, oh yeah, you're just well-meaning white women who are pushing aside, not getting the picture kind of thing. And it's interesting, the person I was talking to was, again, bringing up the disconnect in feminism, white feminism and feminism in women of color. And I said, that is exactly what started this podcast.
Yes.
Is that conversation and stuff. And so again, it's this full circle approach of we as white women we're not only whitewashed in our male history, but we are whitewashed in our feminine history.
Yeah.
We're whitewashed to see
Who told us that Mother's Day isn't equated to a brave holiday?
Yes.
It was equated to, eggs and bacon and breakfast.
And it's interesting because if you look at all of these things, like in small doses, you don't see the larger impact of how it's rolled forward. I think, again, like thinking about the housewife, but how that was only really pitched for white women, as we talked about, and how that still has been this narrative of perfection or achieving. And there's nothing wrong with being a housewife. That's not the issue, but it's the way that it's put on this pedestal of submissiveness that we...
So, well, the point is we took it hook bacons.
Yes, totally.
The Cult of Domesticity gave us, it was media driven in the way that we jumped right into it. So one of the things that the suffrage betrayal, we talk about white women choose race over solidarity. We chose white race over all women and female solidarity. And you can see why women of color, may hate us because of what we constantly did. We did that with the second wave of feminism. So, okay, okay.
But like you even did it the other day on the podcast. Like a friend of ours called it out today.
Yeah.
How you even still, we were talking about the definition of patriarchy. And you were still siding with your white boys.
Yes.
And I was like, no.
Well, because the reason... So anyways, let me
But my point is like, you can still see how indoctrinated and embedded it is in that. Yeah. Even you, after this journey, still did it a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Like you can still slip into those patterns.
And so one of the things that was interesting, so when we talk about the second wave of feminism, we talked about not really understanding, again, how the white woman sidestep the Black person. Many Black women have been working forever.
Oh, forever.
It's not like they just started careers.
Most white women have actually worked forever. If you look at different generations, but we uplift the Gilded Age, a small portion of women that didn't work.
We keep accepting the language of fragile. We keep accepting the language of subservient.
Yeah.
And yet we all know, even women that are working in the household. So I want to talk about the trad wife, do you know who started it?
No.
Oh, this is crazy. And if you go on her Instagram, she works her butt off.
Is it Ballerina Farm?
Yes.
Oh, did she start Trad
She started the
Ballerina
whole thing.
Farms is a mess.
But I know, but if you look at how hard she works, she's got lots of kids. She's doing a garden.
She has like 5 nannies.
Yes.
But we talked about this with the
I know.
Thing.
So anyways, but it's the language of domesticity.
Yes.
It's the language of sweetness. So anyways.
Well, and she also, though, her family, she comes from a ton of wealth.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, she is really wealthy. She was a ballerina growing up. I think her dad owns, like, is it United Airlines?
I have no idea. Yeah.
So there's a lot of she's created this lifestyle that most people can't. She doesn't actually even live into it. The reality is she has help. She has support. She doesn't live into it. She has her own business.
So this was interesting because the second wave of feminism is what it's called, which is, the Gloria Steinem stuff. A lot of it, I didn't realize what it was kind of motivated by, at least in the white population. I don't, Betty Friedan did the book, The Feminine Mystique.
Yeah.
And the feminine mystique wasn't necessarily about feminism. It was about how the media had it all wrong. Because what the media was trying to say was all these women staying at home, living in a lily white suburban neighborhood are really happy. When Betty Friedan actually said that is statistically not true.
Okay.
That many of the suburban white women, my mother included, were living unsatisfied lives, that they weren't using their brains. Like when I think about the original women doing the Mother's Day proclamation, fighting for their sons, fighting for justice and so forth. And those are the same women that have the wherewithal, the mindset, of all women, right? That we can. I love Glennon Doyle's podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, right? And so it's interesting. So the women's, at least the second wave of feminism, really got fueled in a lot of ways, at least in the white community, by this book.
Yeah.
Because they were like, yeah, we are not it's not that we're not happy, but we're not being used to our fullest. We're not living up to the potential. Like we often say, my mom would have been an amazing sociologist because she loves social systems.
Yeah.
Anyways, that came out of that. And then, of course, now we know we're going back to the trad wife trend, and people want to be in that space because media promotes it in a way of domestic bliss, right? Domestic bliss.
But I think as we've talked about trad wives, what's scary about it is not the idea of a stay-at-home mom. The trad wife movement itself really talks about that the woman and the wife is subservient.
Yeah.
And that is the scary part in this conversation, is to make sure she's subservient.
It's always about diminishing.
It's always about diminishing. And so again, I know we clarify this a lot because I want everyone to know we support all women in every journey of life, wherever they want to go.
But we want women to be living into empowerment
into their best selves and not have to think in the subservient twist. I want to go back quickly, though.
Oh, wait. I want to
explain to everyone who Ballerina Farms is, because
Ballerina Farms is done by a woman named, let me get my notes.
Ballerina Farms is a big influencer.
She's an influencer. Her name is, what's her name again?
Who started this content, to your point of she lives on this farm.
She's had a lot of kids.
And she has a lot of kids. And the content started with she supposedly makes everything homemade. She milks the cow. And that's the lifestyle that she's presented. Now
she has 10 million followers. Her name is Hannah Neeleman.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so like they're using it, colonial nostalgia, or right-wing ideology, with better lighting. So it's the same thing, but with a different form of packaging, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone again. Anyways, but I wanted to jump this a little bit because if what the women are saying, like I love that quote from what was her name? Her name was Julia Ward Howe. I love that she said, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Yes. So I wanted to talk about matriarchal values, because that's the other thing is, I think as we've gotten sappy on Mother's Day, we also have gotten a little sappy on what matriarchal values are. So in other words, like, oh, we're just going to give hugs and kisses to anyone, like grace is going to abound in our leadership. When I don't think that's truly the case, I think so.
It's not. And I don't know if you are bringing this topic up.
I am, because
relevant that I've been talking about.
Okay, so talk a little bit, but I have some really good points that give examples to what matriarchal values of leadership would look like.
I briefly mentioned this.
Yes, and I'm doing it because of what we've been talking about with your business.
So I briefly mentioned this on the podcast last week, that I was part of this AI agent panel a couple weeks ago, and I saw really big success in it. But for a little bit larger context, I've been building out my own consulting firm. When you work for yourself, you have to wear every hat, and so I've been trying to build out a team.
And isn't that matriarchal?
I've been trying to build out a team to help support me with all the different avenues, from a strategic to marketing so I have this big agent team. And as it slowly progressed over time, and I've wanted it to be more proactive, more strategic, really take on almost, I actually now have a whole thing that I call Team Hub, where we actually have meetings and they talk to me, side note. But I started realizing how I was building out these systems looked different than a traditional hierarchy like that you would see in an org chart. And I was finding that I was actually having a lot more success in how they were thinking and how proactive they were. There were less bottlenecks, less failures in the infrastructure. There was just a lot of benefits that I was seeing. And so I kind of I did some research around matriarchal systems, and, I built it by accident, but I wanted to see if there was some actual like research behind the benefits of this. And there is so much research to the benefits of a matriarchal system. And so to kind of explain what it is when you think of a hierarchy, a traditional hierarchy or a patriarchal system, I was just trying to be kind to my...
Well, I think the thing is we know now that patriarchal and matriarchal are not necessarily about a person. They're a value.
Totally.
But matriarchy has gotten a negative value.
I had to use the term hierarchical because I was on a panel with like basically all men and stuff. But so a hierarchical system, as we know, has tops down. Is you have a leader and then information filters down to everyone. A matriarchy is actually a web and a community-based system. So essentially, there's not really a leader in the system. Everyone has a skill set, everyone has a purpose, and they utilize each other's with the knowledge of each other's skill set to get things done. So again, if you would kind of look at like a factory system, whereas one person and the part moves down the line, but if one person breaks or doesn't do their job, the whole system breaks. In this sense, there's no factory line. Everything is being done together in a moment. So even if something breaks, like even if you look at that, like,
gosh, it's
they're
like
all building the
it's
tire.
like the traditional way women used to cook together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're all building that. So like even if
women in a quilting circle.
So even if one part starts to break, you're actually not missing the whole foundation of it. You still usually get the whole piece, and then that can be subbed in and adjusted much easier than if it was flowing through a line and a line broke in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And so it's been this like huge eye-opener of, one, with my systems, but two, something I've been speaking on more in the business world. But so that's kind of...
Oh my gosh, this is so... you and I haven't talked about the philosophical details. But I love that. And it's funny because organically, you can see models in which women worked... prior to us all owning it's funny because when we talk about even the first wave of feminism or the second wave of feminism, we still adopted male principles, right? Like I just assimilated, when I went to work, I assimilated male patterns. Your generation, I love the fact that you have like lactating rooms and things like that.
Well, and this is the conversation I'm trying to start in this entrepreneurial AI space is, first of all, like we do on this podcast, I want more women. I want more diverse voices in the business world as well. So that's what I'm pushing towards. But on the flip side, as I started learning this, I thought to myself, why again are we on the verge of a new system? We're on the verge of a new technology, and we're still building it with the same systems as before.
But interesting, Jonelle, because we know how strong the fight is.
We do.
If we start looking at our history and we start looking at each time, if these women were so kick-ass in the 1870s, but then they got pushed down again, every single time.
No, hear me out though. This is where it's like the Trojan horse of the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Here's my philosophy out again. This is such a new technology. This is such a new embrace in the world. If enough people start to show that this type of system thinking is going to get more efficient and better output for this technology, slowly it will be adopted.
But it takes long because we saw how well people worked on Zoom, and then all of a sudden people pull
it's a little different. It's a different of a space because that has like tangible outputs to this. And I'm not saying it's the answer, but I'm saying this is the Trojan horse theory of breaking down the patriarchy.
So I want to throw out some matriarchal values in leadership.
Okay.
In leadership.
Great. Love it.
So not just cuddling your kids, the way that the Hallmark cards have told us we need to be matriarchal.
Yeah.
Okay. decision makers must bear the cost of their decisions.
Yeah.
So in a matriarchal system, women will often but I'm starting to see women like fall into the other trap of not doing that. But decision makers must bear the cost of the decision. That is a matriarchal value.
Ooh.
Care work becomes a political category, not a personal virtue. I love this one. So in other words, think about it. Oh, I will take care of my senior mother because, and that's what I did, right?
Yeah. It's your social duty.
It's my social duty as a daughter, as the oldest daughter, which I did dutifully.
Yeah.
Took care of my aging
You're not
parents.
doing it out of a reward, which is what's rewarded in patriarchal systems.
Yes, there was no reward. And in fact, God bless my sister, she got frustrated with that because she's used to working in a male environment, and it was hard for her to do work that was not rewarded, didn't have a tangible reward. So I love this. Care work becomes a political category, not a personal virtue. Yeah. Love it. Power is accountable to the people closest to the problem. And I thought it was so interesting when you designed that web.
Yeah.
It's not the first person down the line, but the power is accountable to the people closest to the problem. And I really feel like DEI, for example, the reason it didn't exist, it got shunned down, is because so many women, Black men, or Black women, or brown women took on the leadership of DEI in their companies, but we didn't hold Mark Zuckerberg accountable. We didn't hold Jeff Bezos accountable. We did it at a secondary level.
At the line.
And they never embodied it. They were the first ones to go to have a party at the White House.
Where's the matriarchy? Everyone has to embody it.
Everyone has to embody it.
Yeah.
Conflict doesn't disappear. It just can't be exported. We can have conflict.
Yeah.
We think about the family. Think about when your kids are fighting. Moms are always in the middle. We can have conflict. We can have conflict in the workplace. We can take it.
What's so fascinating is the more you describe this, the more it shows how closely tied white women are to patriarchy.
Oh.
Because a lot of these values don't actually describe white women, the passive-aggressive white women, the can't be part of conflict, can't have. And so I think what's interesting.
No, but then we've been sold this bill of goods.
Well, this is my point.
This is what happened when I read that Mother's Day card. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But this is my point. Like, the more we're showing up into like truly what should be our inherited values as women, it's showing the disconnect of how closely tied white women are again to these patriarchal
They have
values,
brainwashed us
because so far how the average white woman has moved away from those values.
And I think it goes deeper. These were colonial mindset values that turned out to be patriarchal. Okay. Conflict doesn't matter. It is not about women in charge doing the same thing. Feminism must move beyond the center. A white woman running a corporation in the same way men did is not matriarchal leadership. It is patriarchy. The question is, what values govern, not just holds the title?
Well, I think
so. Our values are important.
Why a lot of men, or I've learned a lot of people who uphold hierarchical systems, don't value in matriarchy, is matriarchal systems take the discussion, take the insight from the group. And I think there's this tendency to think, oh, that's too much talking, like not enough gets action, when really a tops-down action a lot of times misses the larger point of action.
Oh, because they're so distant from it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what where power is accountable, closest to the problem.
And so even though we're hearing, but it's a lot of, I mean, there's so many things we can talk about.
So I'm going to end with one thing.
Okay.
The challenge to white women, not just men. This is where it gets uncomfortable. White women who have gained power within patriarchal systems and now reproduce those same dynamics are part of the problem.
Yeah.
Real matriarchal values, so when we think about our matriarchal values, so many of these are inherited values, would cost white women the racial advantages they traded their political power to keep. So we as white women have adopted the patriarchal values so that we can get ahead.
Yeah.
When instead, let's open up our eyes, how we've been brainwashed. Yes. Let's use the values that we, like the women in the 1870s for the Mother's Day Proclamation, said we can do this differently.
Or again,
let's do hard things.
Instincts to be in community and listen to others. I heard this really good thing about gossip. Like, we as women are supposed to be shamed that we gossip, but gossip actually started as a form of moving information between women when they weren't allowed to talk amongst each other.
Yeah.
And they weren't allowed. And so gossip again, but again, it's flipped on its head of this.
They made us feel bad about it.
They made us feel bad about it. And so I think it's just things like that. Go back to our nature of wanting community-driven engagement.
Well, this will be exciting to hear how you build out your plan.
I know, I'm really excited. Yeah. So if anyone
wants to join you in that conversation,
join me in the conversation. I'm going to start building out a cohort and I don't know, do some speaking engagements about it, but it's really exciting.
So anyways, I hope you like this topic. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us on White Women Wake Up. We hope today's conversation sparks something in you, whether it's a reflection, a new question, or a deeper commitment to showing up with empathy and accountability. If you found this episode meaningful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can also connect with us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Substack, or at whitewomenwakeup.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts and keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, be open, and keep waking up.
So just want to read a little bit of where we found our information. Mother's Day history from Heather Cock Richardson, May 9th. Cult of Domesticity from Barbara Welter, American Quarterly, 1966. Voting data from Center for American Women in Politics, Rutgers, 2024. Bell Hooks, Ain't I a Woman, in 1981. Patricia Hill Collins, Black Feminist Thought, 1990, 2023. And Suffrage Parade History from the Smithsonian. All links in show notes. Keep waking up.
Keep waking up. Bye.
Bye.